Hey everybody, it's Chris with Life 180, and it's been a while since I've done a video. It's been about 5 weeks since I've actually filmed a video, and for that I apologize. However, the topic of this video is very congruent with the reason that I've gone a little bit dark. The topic and the content and the idea, the subject matter of this video is around the importance of accelerated benefit riders. Being able to leverage the accelerated benefit riders. If you become critically, chronically, or terminally ill, you can actually tap into your life insurance death benefit to use while you're alive. Now, I'm going to explain why that's so important. Now, I believed this for a long time, but I got to tell you, one of the reasons that I've gone dark is my father-in-law was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer about 5 weeks ago. I don't know how much you know about pancreatic cancer, but it's basically one of the top killers when it comes to cancer. It's the second deadliest form of cancer behind a particular type of brain cancer. So over the past 5 weeks, the reason that I haven't been around doing videos online is because I've been spending a huge percentage of my time dedicated with my wife to doing research and finding alternative treatments. He has decided that he doesn't want to go the chemo, radiation, kind of traditional Western world way of dealing with the therapy. When he was diagnosed, he was given 6 weeks of good life left with about 3 months to live. So now we're about a third of the way through that 3-month diagnosis for life expectancy. And I know that times can, they give those, and those are kind of the worst case scenarios. But I've seen and read plenty of stories now at this point in time showing that it can actually happen way faster and go downhill way faster than that. So for the purpose of the content of this, our story is really important because when I was 31, I think, I'm 40 now. So when I was 31, I bought a term policy and when I bought that term policy, I did it with the intention of, I really didn't care about the life insurance component of what we had. Now, I had just gone and started working for myself. I had to pay for my own health insurance for myself and my family. At that time, it was just me and my wife. We had a child on the way. My daughter is now 9 years old. And so it was just kind of something where I was looking at the full picture of our finances and I was trying to figure out what made the most sense for us to do. Now, so what did I do? I decided that we needed to get a life insurance policy with an accelerated benefit rider. Now, I believe in all the whole life stuff. Like, I'm not saying you should not do a permanent policy if that's a strategy that you align with. If you want to be able to leverage and accelerate the growth of your wealth, that's one conversation. I do plenty of videos on that. I'm not going to really touch on that at all in this video. The purpose of this video is really to talk about the accelerated benefit riders and being able to leverage that inside of a term policy. Now, I was 31 years old, very healthy. I try to keep as fit as possible. I eat well, we're really intentional about the things that we put into our body. And so I got the elite preferred rating with the carrier. Every company calls it a little differently. But one of the things that I would say to you is you need to be getting a term policy on top of every other insurance that you have, if possible. And that term policy, if possible, and there are companies out there, you can feel free to reach out. You can set up an appointment, talk with Caleb's team. He can get you all set. But it's really, really important that you have accelerated benefits tied into it. Now, here's the challenge. Life insurance is a very commoditized trait when you look at the term insurance side of things. Unfortunately, a lot of people buy life insurance with simply looking at what's my death benefit and what's my cost, and they go with the highest death benefit for the smallest cost, and they're happy with that, right? So I went out there at 31 years old, elite preferred. I could have got a $1 million coverage term policy, 10-year term. So I've since replaced that, by the way. So it's not about to expire or anything of that nature. I have replaced it, but 10-year term policy with accelerated benefits if I became critically, chronically, or terminally ill. And every company has a different description of what that means. However, think about what that means. Let's talk about those 3 definitions. The critically ill. If you get like diabetes or something of that nature, That can be a critical illness. Chronically ill, any kind of heart disease or anything of that nature. Terminal illness is like a diagnosis like my father-in-law just got with, hey, you have 3 months, you have 1 year, you have whatever to live. And what happens when you get these diagnoses, you can actually apply and be given your death benefit ahead of time and be used, at least access a portion of your death benefit to utilize while you're alive. Now, here's the caveat to that. Nothing in life is free. And they don't, this even though it's an ABR rider, they call it, accelerated benefit rider, it's not something that you typically pay for in addition. It's not a selective rider. There are a lot of like long-term care riders, for instance, disability riders that you can add on to a whole life or a permanent policy. This is not the kind of rider that I'm talking about. These riders are naturally just baked into the cost of the policy. So if you're going, this is where I was going before, if you're going out there and you're looking for $1 million death benefit, when I was 31, I was looking at this, and at $1 million, I could have got $1 million coverage for 10 years for like $19 a month or something. Like, it was really, really low. Don't quote me on that because I don't remember the exact number, but I just remember it was super low, and it is what it is. So if you're in your low 30s and you're super healthy, not having that, there's really no excuse to not have that kind of minimal coverage, at least. $1 million doesn't go very far these days, let's face it. So, but here's the deal. I was able to get $1 million of coverage with a terminal rider baked into it. And it had all three of those riders that I was talking about, the critical, chronic, and terminal riders baked into it. I was able to do that for just under $40 a month. It was $39 a month. And for $39 a month, what that gave me was access to this terminal. Now, thank God I have not gotten sick or anything of that nature. However, had I gotten sick, like let's take a step back to how I started this. I was looking at my overall finances and saying, okay, what do I need for coverage? Now, sadly, our insurance world is like thrown upside down. It's on its head. I coach entrepreneurs. I work with entrepreneurs. I help them build their businesses. I run an online business development agency. If you go to life180.com, that's what you will see. Now, with that, most entrepreneurs are responsible for their own health insurance, for their own financial planning, for their own financial strategies. There's no 401ks to rely on, even though if you are relying on those through your company, I'm going to tell you you're probably doing it wrong. So that's another conversation. I have plenty of videos on that. However, it is fully on you. The insurance world that we have right now from a health insurance perspective is just busted. It's broken. I remember at that point in time, for me and my wife and to have a baby on the plan, it was like $900 a month. And that included like a $10,000 annual deductible. So the first $10,000 out of pocket were coming out of my bank account, right? So that was just insane, right? So what did I do? I looked at some alternative health share programs that functioned really well, that had good reviews and had good participations. There's a lot of great Christian health share organizations. I think we did Liberty Health Share is the company that we did for a while. And we had really phenomenal experiences with them. You could just look them up. I know there's a bunch of organizations that you can find that were like that. And it was a fraction of the price. Because I was thinking, what is the point of having insurance? We're both young, we're both super healthy. We obviously have a baby on the way, and that baby, we want to make sure our child had the best healthcare possible. The beautiful part with the health share program is it covered all the maternity stuff, it covered all the newborn stuff that you have to deal with, and all the things you have to deal with your child's healthcare, right? And so that was covered. I got the life insurance policy as our protection if I got cancer. If I had anything kind of catastrophic that happened, it was our backup plan. If I had gotten sick, I would have had access to just over $900,000 to use for alternative treatments, whatever way that I wanted. Now, I say this because I didn't buy this policy for the life insurance. Now, obviously, had I died in a car accident, it would have been extra life insurance for my wife, right? That would have been just a bonus, icing on the cake, so to speak. It would have helped her. But this was in addition to all the other policies that I had for the infinite banking and the abundance banking and all that, using your policy as as a banking alternative, all the strategies that we talk about. This was in addition to that because it was a side note. Now you got to be really careful because you got to make sure you can qualify for the insurance. That's income based. And a lot of times, though, I will say this, if you feel like you're maxed out on your insurance because of your income, if you are working with an agent, I'm going to give a little tidbit. You got to make sure that they know what they're doing because they can write a really good cover letter when they submit all your stuff to the company, all of your health, all of your application, everything. They can submit a cover letter to explain why you want to use it. And a lot of times, if you're already maxed out at the classic approval for what a company thinks you should have for insurance, and you are very clear about why you want this policy, then a lot of times, they can get that through as well. You can have the additional coverage, and it'll be no problem. So here's the great part, and this is kind of like the beautiful part of the story. My father-in-law, kind of circling back to where I started. My father-in-law was, diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic. We're looking at all these options, and he is going the natural treatment round. Now, upon doing all the research, we're doing really alternative therapies. We're talking about dealing with a doctor in Atlanta who does a procedure in Mexico City because the United States won't allow you to do it. We're working with a doctor here in Tempe, Arizona, that is just phenomenal. We've had to order in supplements from Mexico because they're not allowed to be sold in the United States. They can actually administer them here. It's insane to me how broken the health system is in this country. That's probably another video, and I've really built a huge education and awareness about this over the past month, and it's really hit home with me and impacted me. So don't be surprised if you start seeing more videos on this topic because I think we have a super problem and pandemic on its own around our health and the way that people deal with cancer and the way that we deal with our treatments of ourselves. And let's face it, medical bills are one of the top reasons. It is, I believe, the top reason for bankruptcy that people have. So imagine if you had a $40 a month policy, even if you're a little older, I'm 40 now, it's a little more expensive. I think it's like $65 a month. For me, it's nothing. Still, when you compare it for a 10-year policy, even when you look at that, like for $1 million, it worst case scenario, it's insurance to make sure that if anything catastrophic happens, it makes it so I'm not on the hook for all those medical bills, right? So what does that mean? That insulates your finances and protects you so you can focus on the growth and every other element of positivity that you want to be focused on, right? So it's just positioning yourself for success. Now in this, my father-in-law, quite frankly, not to throw him under the bus, but he is the classic Wells Fargo kind of guy. He's a traditional broker. He's been a stockbroker, financial advisor for 40 years. I love him. He's one of the most honest, truthful people I've ever met in my life, and he's got just amazing integrity, and he's amazing. We just differ on these strategies, and that's fine, right? Like Thanksgiving conversations are interesting, but that's fine. However, he didn't have what I'm talking about set up. He did have a group policy through his company, right? So when you talk about that, like you're normally there's no ABRs associated with group policy. I will say this, we were able to call and pull some strings and leverage because the diagnosis was so bad and it was getting rushed so much that we were able to get them to front a portion of the life insurance policy for treatment, because we're talking about after all the alternative treatments that we're doing, insurance covers none of it. It's all out of pocket. We're looking at $250,000 to $300,000 out of pocket that we're gonna have to pay for all of what he's got going on. And so that either has to come out of his qualified accounts, out of any savings he has, or if he had what I'm talking about set up ahead of time, it would have been 100% covered through this policy. However, he didn't have it set up. He did have this group policy set up. We were able to accelerate some of it, and that helped kick the ball off, so to speak, to get everything moving. We've already spent tens of thousands of dollars on this treatment. It's only been a month. And we have all the hard stuff to come. So anyway, if you don't have an accelerated benefit rider on your term policy, you'll want one. You don't want to just get the cheapest term possible. You want to make sure whatever policy that you have, whether it's an accelerated benefit rider on your term policy or whether you have a whole life policy, even if you have an IUL, I'm not a believer in IULs, but if you have an IUL, make sure that you have the ABRs tapped in there, and make sure you understand the clauses of how those ABRs are administered. Every company is a little different. Every company has different ways, rules, regulations in how you actually access, what it takes to trigger accessibility to those riders. Some companies are great, some are not great. You need to make sure that you understand that not all ABRs are created equally, and you have to leverage, it's always a give and take. You have to kind of understand how important is it to you, and what's that worth? What's the cost worth? Because once again, don't think about your life insurance as a commoditized trait. Think of it as a tool. Think about what objective you're looking for that tool to fill in your life, and figure out what is the value of that tool when it comes to solving that needed problem in your life. So anyway, that is it for now. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, just I'll put a link below that you can go and you can set up an appointment with Caleb and his team, and they can help you just figure out what you have. Listen, I understand a lot of this stuff is really confusing. This topic is really near and dear to my heart right now. I believe now more than ever, when something like this happens to you, and it's happened to me, I'm gonna try to get back on the horn, making more videos, so to speak, and really reaching out and creating content that will serve people. That's really, I love this part of what I do. I love creating content, even though it's not always related to what I do for work. But I just believe financial literacy is a huge lacking component in our world right now. And so anyway, I hope this video finds you well. Hopefully you're not going through this yourself, but reach out to Caleb, click the link below. He can do an audit because it is confusing. He'll do an audit on your term. He'll do an audit on your permanent insurance, whatever it looks like, whether it's IUL, whether it's whole life, whether it's anything. If you have any questions, I know it's overwhelming. They can help you dig into it. 100% reach out to them, and we'll go from there. Until next video, have a blessed, inspirational day. Go out, crush it. We'll talk to you soon.